Welcome, everyone, to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. This is part 2 of our series on ClientCircle. On today's show, we have Torey Mayers.
Hello.
And Donna Cowart.
Hello.
If you missed part 1 in our series on ClientCircle, please go back and give it a listen to hear more from Torey, founder and CEO of ClientCircle, particularly about his position on innovation and integration in the insurance space. That was a very important conversation that we were able to have, and I really encourage people to go give it a listen, especially if you're on the InsurTech side. But even if you're an agent, I think it's valuable to hear. For part 2, we're going to turn our focus to a mutual customer of HawkSoft's and ClientCircle's to learn how Donna and the Cowart Insurance Agency is using ClientCircle inside their real workplace. Donna is the Senior Vice President of Marketing and Operations, COO, CIO. She described herself a moment ago as the electrician and the person that's doing the dishes for the Cowart Insurance Agency in the greater Atlanta, Georgia area. Cowart Insurance Agency has used HawkSoft since 2021, which means they onboarded during the pandemic, which was not an easy time for anyone, but to do those things is impressive. Donna got her start in the industry in underwriting and in training for carrier reps. This is our first time, or second time, having a chance to talk, if we include last week. But this is the first time that I personally have had a chance to sit down with Donna and have a conversation. But as I was mentioning to her before we started recording, she has a great reputation as a very forward-thinking agency principal. I have definitely heard her name come up in many conversations around people to watch. I hope that's not embarrassing for me to say, because it's. I am extremely humbled to have a chance to talk to someone who has the experience you have and is overseeing an agency with the thoughtfulness that you are. Thank you for being here with us.
I appreciate that, and it was. One of the things that took me aback about this whole situation was we logged on. I haven't talked to you before, and I haven't talked to Torey before. So we're going into this as an open, honest conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's fantastic. That really goes to show, and is another plug for people going back to listen to part 1, where Torey talked about his people. Because I think that goes to show the credit that Torey's team deserves for building a strong relationship with Donna. That Donna would agree to this crazy scheme of getting her onto a podcast to talk about ClientCircle.
And nobody would call me to just check to make sure I'm not a mad woman or something.
Yeah, and I feel like we know each other, Donna. So, you know, this is going really well. I appreciate it.
So in this podcast, we ask all of our mutual customers the same 5 questions because we want agencies to be able to listen to one of these episodes and see how they're alike or how they're not alike, the agent giving their opinion, because it'll help guide their understanding. So we start off, and we would love to know, just like we asked Torey the story behind ClientCircle, I would love to know the story behind Cowart Insurance Agency.
We are a second-generation family-owned agency. We've been in business for 47 years. I actually went to work for one of our original founders in high school. Yes, I've been at this a long time, guys. He was a captive agent, and then I went off to college and came back, and he was like, hey, you want to come back and work for me? His son decided he wanted to open an independent agency. He didn't want to do things the captive way. He could even tell back then that it didn't have enough flexibility. So he went off on his own, managed to get his own contracts, and went AI all the way from the very beginning. A few years down the line, my future father-in-law, yes, I married the boss's son, saw that the AI was where it was at. So they decided to merge agencies a number of years later. So we've been at this a long time. And I worked on the corporate side of insurance for, 15 years. as an agency trainer. I was a corporate trainer on the company side. So I've got a pretty wide background, even with underwriting.
Excellent. So the agency has been around since 1976. How many people work in the agency today?
We have 5 employees and a lot of automation.
Gotcha. Um, and then with that, do you specialize in any type of line of business, or in the personal side, the commercial side? Do you have a niche that you focus on?
Well, we don't really focus on like one particular niche. We've got several contractors, some things like that. HVAC. We are personal lines and commercial. We do it all.
Excellent.
We're not just commercial. We're not just personal. And before the last economic downturn, we were primarily commercial.
Oh, okay.
Now we're primarily personal lines.
Oh, wow.
Because the I don't even know how to put it. The way the builders and all the contractors started all
Yeah.
having to close up shop because
Yeah.
the housing market just bottomed out.
Mm-hmm.
It was more of a response to that, and it was a natural transition to be heavy with personal lines.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. And now I always love to ask agents this question: what gets you excited about insurance?
Oh, me get excited about insurance? Where we're at now compared to where we were before. I was on the front end of trying to do, some of the automation and things with the agents. I mean, I used to be a software trainer. I mean, it used to be called software. And then with the agency side, I was always encouraging. I'm like, hey, you guys need to use an agency management system. You need to get rid of all the paper files. We were paperless before just about anyone else. So just where we're at now compared to where we were 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Now, in part one, you made the observation that you're a very long-term planner, and when you were looking to implement HawkSoft at the agency, you had already been looking ahead at other automation that plugs in. So I would love for you to dive a bit more into that and talk to us about what you were looking for when you first encountered ClientCircle.
When we first went onboarded with HawkSoft, I had a long-term plan. I had already mapped out over a 24-month period what I wanted to use and the timing of it roughly. I knew that it would probably change a bit. But I already had in line, in what order I was going to add to the tech stack. So I had decided about a year, 10 to 12 months after onboarding with HawkSoft, that we were going to try to get going with a relationship management system. And at that point, I circled back to what I had already decided and looked through all the documentation and the paperwork. And after working with HawkSoft, there were some things that were brought to light that we really needed to focus on and to pay attention to what was being done and used with our data. And I very much appreciate that lesson because it's something I don't know that I would have considered before. So when we were ready to onboard, I quickly decided that no, we need to pivot. We need to do something different. And at the time, it was called Rocket Referrals. And the people there are incredible. They answered all of my questions, gave me some assurances, and it seemed like they were ahead of the game with trying to make some changes and get ahead of the game. And so that's why we decided to try to give it a go with them, and we've not regretted that decision.
Thanks, Donna.
Yeah, that is excellent to hear.
It makes me feel good to hear things like that because that's why we're here. So, as an entrepreneur, I mean, in every agency out there can probably relate to this, is that you go to sleep at night and you're always worried about the things that are going to happen. But when you hear good feedback and things like that, it kind of makes it all worth it. So it makes it easier to sleep. So I appreciate it.
So you had mentioned that you were looking for reputation management. Was that what drew you in, the NPS surveys that ClientCircle can automate? Was the rest of the automation a happy bonus, or were you also looking for that marketing automation and outreach?
I was actually looking for both. At the time, I had already been using a reputation management program, and it was working great. And then all of a sudden, it just sort of disappeared overnight. It was one of those things I'm like, oh, I haven't seen anything in a while. And I logged back in and I'm like, oh, what's going on? I mean, literally, the company was gone.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's with no notice. They never sent anything. It was one of those odd things. But the NPS score is very helpful, and the way they have it formatted is very useful because you can see what the clients are saying, and they have a scoring system. But it's also flexible enough where if you don't want to use it the way it's designed, you can change and do it a little differently, like we are right now with the hard market. Because with all the rate increases being so crazy and so big, you know, how many people are going to be happy with that if you're surveying your current client base? So I like the flexibility in that. And we were looking at trying to do some marketing pieces, those things that, you know, agents want to do, but they never seem to have time to do. And that was important to me. So at the time, I was looking for two different things to put in the tech stack, but they took care of both at the same time.
Gotcha. And so I want to dive a little deeper on that with our third question here. I would love to know what the Cowart Insurance Agency can do now with ClientCircle that you couldn't do before you implemented them. And so I'd love to know a bit more about maybe the campaigns you're running, or that automation that you're able to, you know, you have a team of 5 people, which is not a small agency by any stretch of the word, but
it's not huge
it's
either.
a lean ship.
Oh, very much so, because we, with my background, I mean, I've tried to automate wherever I can. We use service centers where we can, you know, because my goal is to free up my agents' time so they can actually do insurance. When we decided to go and do the marketing part of the ClientCircle, what really attracted me at the beginning was that ClientCircle has templates that are ready-made, simple. Agents that are short on time, short on talent, don't know where to start, you can get up and running with them fairly quickly. And as I mentioned in episode 1, we had a few people retire not long after we onboarded with ClientCircle, maybe 4 or 5 months in. So I had to put everything on hold, so we could reformat everything, get all the new hires in. And in that short period of time, they rolled out a whole different component to their program. And so we basically onboarded twice. Our account manager had us move to something that's called Journeys. And it's very, very, it's simple to use, and it's straightforward, but you can develop highly complex multi-year campaigns, I think is the best way to describe that. And at this point, we're running quite a few of them. We've got things as simple and straightforward as birthday campaigns all the way to renewal review emails, and I've got them formatted over several years. So it's set up, and you can go in there and change it at any given time.
That's amazing.
Torey, I think because Journeys is one of your newer product offerings, I'd love if you could give the elevator pitch of the elevator pitch for Journeys, so that listeners, even listeners who might already be using ClientCircle, they might not be aware of it. love to give you a chance to talk a bit about it.
The reason that I said that's amazing is because, you know, we really built journeys for people like Donna. And it's so cool to see that you're using it the way that we had hoped that it would be used. But it is really intended to have those multiple year journeys. And the inspiration, and maybe this is kind of the fun part of this, is the inspiration for journeys I always thought of is kind of like a family going on a vacation. And you know, they're going on a journey and they're going to have multiple stops along the way, and there's different milestones, you know, like the old traditional family vacation, and there's multiple roles that people play as the family goes through, you know, across the country, right? You've got the navigator, you've got the, you know, maybe the snack person who's going to control all the snacks in the car. And the whole point of a journey is that as you move from start to finish, certain things need to happen, and you can communicate with the agent, you can communicate with the contact, and we're adding the ability to do additional contacts and other things. But it's not about sending an email to someone because something happened. It's all about lining out what the journey is supposed to be, and then putting someone in it and letting them kind of flow through it, but then have a goal attached to it. So the whole goal of the journey is that, let's say it's a cross sell or something like that, is to increase the number of products per customer. And when that happens, the journey goal is marked, and then you can see that it's done. So it doesn't have to go any further. So it has some things to get people started. We have some journeys that we've built, but this is really made for people like Donna who want to build out their agency and be able to differentiate themselves a little bit differently than other people. And they can do that by building unique journeys. You know, she mentioned birthdays in there. I know we don't have any birthday journeys to start with, so she obviously built that one herself, and all kinds of other things. So, yeah,
that's fascinating, and it gives me a nice, apt little metaphor, because I kind of want to take a slight detour, because on our normal customer question path, I've seen a billboard off on the side that's like, world's most prepared agent this way. So I really, Don, I want to ask you a question. How, let me set this up, because I put the background in my head, but I should share it with everybody else. So Paul Hawkins is very well known for giving this example that insurance professionals often get too busy running their businesses and putting out fires to grab the fire extinguisher from the wall. Donna, from our conversation, I'm getting the sense that you walk around with a fire extinguisher in your hand, and the fires probably don't start if you can.
Here we go, right? If at all possible.
So I would love to know how can an agent, what is the first step they should be taking to get to that position? What is the step that is like grab the fire extinguisher? Do you have any advice for an agent that's saying like, I want to be like her?
Oh, be like me? I mean, in regards to ClientCircle, or where are you going with this?
Just in terms of like thinking that long term, being prepared, maybe being a little bit more proactive. I would just love to know if you have any advice in that area.
Well, I think you need to have your head up and look around and not get focused on just one or two things. You need to be open-minded. I mean, I think a lot of agents are really sales-oriented. Some of us are planners, and I think it's important to plan. Even if you sit down just a couple of times a year and take the time, because every day you're not going to sit down and think about these things. But that helps me, you know, because this time of the year I start working on some of the marketing plans for next year. Start thinking, where do I want to be in 3 months? Where do I want to be in 6 months? And kind of have an overview of, you know, some of those goals, so I can put them on my to-do list, if you will.
Yeah. Not I promise this just doesn't come. I've worked with Torey for a long time, and so I've just accumulated a handful of things from ClientCircle. But it's apt, and this is a visual thing for people listening to the podcast right now. I'm holding up a notebook that says "Work Hard," and it's a piece of swag that ClientCircle put together when they launched their rebrand from Rock Referrals to ClientCircle, and it makes me think of Donna. It makes me think Torey on his LinkedIn bio, because I was stalking everybody as I do before these podcasts. It says "just do," and I think there's no substitute for doing the hard work. And so, Donna, I really appreciate you saying, like, sit down, be open minded, make a plan. And I'm fond of the saying, not the person who said it, but I'm fond of the saying, time spent sharpening the axe is saved in the swing, because I really think that it takes some effort, but it really pays off. Doing the hard work pays off. Doing the thing, doing the planning pays off. And so I hope listeners are internalizing that, because it's an important message to take away from this.
Kenny, I think the one thing that's always driven me to work hard is that when something is hard, you're doing something that someone else probably is not going to be doing. Yeah. So, that's a driver for us to continue to improve and get better, because when something is hard, that other person is probably not going to go through the pain that you're going through right now. And so if you can take it, do it.
Absolutely. Speaking of being able to take things, this is question 4, which is the parallel to in part 1, where Torey got to talk about and vent his feelings about the insurance technology industry, not necessarily insurance agencies. But we believe in fair play here, and because this is an open dialogue between insurance professionals and technology providers, Donna, I would love to know your take on what is the one thing you would change about ClientCircle if you could.
What is the one thing I would like to change? Now that I've been involved with the program long enough and I've begun to use the new Journey program, I want it to do more. Yes, I want it to do more. I want it to be able to see a bit more data within HawkSoft, so it can answer if then this questions.
Sure.
Or say how. Okay, here's a good example. On a home campaign, I want it to be able to tell whether it's a condo. I want it to know whether it's a renter's. I want it to be able to tell maybe the zip code it's in. Yeah, I think about this stuff too much. What do you think?
No, I don't think you're thinking about it too much at all. I love all those ideas, and I just wrote them down. I'm ready to
I was just about to say, we definitely, Jeff, make sure to leave in Torey's pen click as he was taking notes for what Donna was saying.
Click.
And I'm taking that feedback back as well, because if our API doesn't support it, it should. And so I think that's good. That's good feedback. And I appreciate that you have that crystallized thought in your head, because a lot of times people come to us and say, well, I wish it would just do stuff. And it's like, well, what stuff? What are the specifics? We can build specific things. The general stuff is what's difficult.
And I would like for it to be able to see maybe on auto, do they have all the discounts? Maybe a specific, be able to have the ability to look for a specific discount or coverage for that matter. So, cool. Because I was a bit overwhelmed when we were redoing everything and going into the journeys. And I have a lot of them running, by the way, a lot. But now that I understand and see what it can do, it can do a whole lot more. Yeah. If it can grab just a little bit more information from HawkSoft.
Cool. I think that's a great idea.
That's awesome.
I'm taking this, Donna.
Pretty much. Sky's the limit if you can give me more data.
Yep, that's true. Yep.
So then the last question we ask our customer participants is, how would you describe the value that ClientCircle brings to your agency?
value they bring me. ClientCircle helps us break our agency's larger goals into smaller, more manageable tasks, if you will. And it helps us reach a lot of these goals by making sure that a lot of these communications are actually sent out.
Mhm.
A lot of agents, most of our days are just task intensive, hair on fire, if you will. And some things that just don't happen are considered lower hanging fruit, I suppose. But if they're sent out appropriately, then it opens up a world of opportunities, and that should excite agents because we want to all be number one. Or we wouldn't be in this business for
Mhm.
very long anyway.
Yep.
And that's always been a pain point for us personally, and I imagine for a lot of agents, to make sure that certain things are done and the documentation's there, that it has been done. I think that's huge.
Mhm.
I think,
Fantastic.
Donna, one of the things that you said that just reminded me of something that I heard once is the most expensive piece of communication is the one that you don't send. It's
I would agree with you.
like that's the problem with communication is that it's
Hmm.
really expensive when you don't use it.
No, I agree. And honestly, ClientCircle's integration with HawkSoft has really helped us um, solve this problem. And I'm excited to see where we can go with it in the next year or two or three.
Awesome, me too. And thank you.
Absolutely.
Your feedback makes that happen, so I appreciate it.
And by the way, I love our account manager.
Go ahead and mention their name. Who do you have?
I have Ashley.
Ashley. Ashley, you got the shout out. We'll let you
Yep,
know.
Ashley. Is it Wahid?
Mm-hmm.
Wahid?
Yep.
Wahid?
Yep.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I have so thoroughly enjoyed our conversation today and last week. Donna, I cannot thank you enough for your time. And we don't mention this a lot on the podcast, but agents volunteer their time to be on this podcast. I will find some way to express my gratitude in the future for sure once I get Torey to give up his t-shirt guy. But I really cannot thank you enough for participating in this and sharing your perspective and insight. I know it's going to help other agents. Torey, thank you so much for your time as always. Missed you last time I was out with your team. It's good to see you now. I want to thank everyone for watching today's episode. Click on the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you all. Thank you for watching today's episode. Click the video description below to learn more about our guests and to view the latest podcast episode as well as other content from HawkSoft. We appreciate you watching and hope you join us next time on the Insurance Perspectives podcast. Thank you.